This video is supported by Golden Era Muscle. Please visit goldeneramuscle.com for training information and supplements. Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I'd like to continue looking at Frank Zane's wisdom in regards to abdominal development. Now it's very easy for me to simply give you a routine or a list of exercises that he would have performed, but I would rather concentrate on the reasoning behind his selection of exercises and on the why he actually performed them and how he performed them. I think are really important. We're going to focus today on the importance of a small muscular waistline for an aesthetic physique. We're going to look at high rep work and the importance of rhythm in abdominal work, and finally at how really intelligently Frank Zane was able to categorize exercises for specific purposes, and this whole approach led to his incredibly developed abdominal region. I mean, it was just he's the almost, you could say he's almost the pinnacle in the golden era as an example of abdominal development. We'll start off with this amazing vacuum shot of Frank Zane early on in his career, although he's probably not completely ripped to shreds as the other famous vacuum shot that is available online. But I mean, he is looking a little bit more smooth. But you know what I like the most is his face. You can tell that he's done so many abdominal exercises, including the vacuum, that he's just relaxed. This is his pose. He's so relaxed and poised that he can pull this shot off without any ounce of effort. It is incredible. And of course, the tiny waist really shows that the wisdom he applied to his exercise selection and routine was the reason why he ended up with this phenomenal physique. Let's have a look at Frank Zane's way of developing the abdominals. Now, one of the reasons Frank Zane emphasized the importance of keeping the waistline small and muscular was because he believed that it was truly the keynote to a quality physique. As he puts it, when the midsection is properly developed, it adds the finishing touches to the whole physique. It basically ties everything together. And further, by keeping it small, as in the waistline, it actually makes the upper body and the legs appear much larger, and therefore overall it gives this illusion of muscularity and of course aesthetic, proportional, symmetrical physique. Now, Frank Zane was a heavy advocate of high rep work for abdominals, and basically because he believed that high rep work would muscularize the abdominal region. As he puts it in his booklets, the longer a muscle is tensed, the more muscular it becomes. And actually in his books and booklets, I've read that he gives the example of one of his mentors, Szabo, otherwise known as Erwin Korzewski, who was well known to do thousands and thousands of abdominal work during the day. For example, he used to do at least 500 sit-ups in the morning and finish with 500 leg raises at night, and he's pictured here. And in the 50s, he was very well known as Mr. Abs, and he kept this fantastic abdominal development, as you can see here, at 46 years of age. So you can see why Frank Zane looked up to Szabo and adopted many of his principles in that way. Now, one other thing that Frank Zane advocated was the use of rhythm in abdominal workouts because of the high repetitions that were needed. The reasoning behind this, of course, was that by having a rhythm, this would prevent, I guess, improper form, swinging around and not actually performing the exercise properly. And by having a rhythm, this would create focus and enhanced concentration, and therefore would allow you to control the movement and work the area properly. Now, one of the things that I found out from reading many of Frank's books and booklets is that he actually used to categorize the old school abdominal exercises into 3 categories as shown here: stretching abdominal exercises, which included sit-ups, Roman chair sit-ups, and leg raises; 2, cramping abdominal exercises such as crunches and partial sit-ups; and 3, waistline reduction abdominal exercises such as vacuums and twists. Now, what's interesting and different about the categories is the way that the exercises are performed and the reason why you should perform them. Now, the stretching abdominal exercises, if you look at the exercises listed, sit-ups and leg raises as an example, they involve a very large range of motion while keeping the abs, in this case, tense. And so in Frank's viewpoint, these kinds of exercises, although tension is involved and there is a large range of motion, this large range of motion actually leads to a stretching of the abdominal region. Whereas if you look at the cramping abdominal exercises such as crunches, there is a very small range of motion. And therefore, in his view, these exercises isolate, for example, the rectus abdominis in a very small range of motion. Whereas if you look finally at waistline reduction abdominal exercises such as twists and vacuums, these have an overall effect of reducing the waistline, because that is the actual motion involved. When you do a vacuum, for example, you have to suck your stomach in, and therefore you're shrinking the waist. When you're doing twists, the twists are actually done also by sucking the stomach in. So they actually all involve reducing the waistline while doing the exercise itself. It's a very interesting way of categorizing these abdominal exercises, and it also leads to the way, or I should say the reason as to why each are performed. One would involve, that is, a stretching of abdominal exercises would actually lead to a stretching or thinning in a way of the waistline. Cramping abdominal exercises would therefore isolate and bring out the musculature, while waistline reduction in itself explains the reason for the exercise, which is waistline reduction. Now, the leg raise was one of Frank Zane's favorite exercises, and he believed it was a stretching exercise which developed the line of the waist. Of course, he specifically targeted the lower abdominal region using the leg raise, and he would actually use different types of benches using the flat bench or an incline bench, and do several sets at high reps. Now, the Roman chair sit-up was another of Frank Zane's favorite exercise, and he actually used to train it for up to 1.5 hours, which was absolutely insane. He recommends going on this exercise for time, so setting up a time of 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever. And unlike the sit-up, it actually works at a higher range of motion and therefore contracts the lower back as you go below parallel. And this is why he actually enjoyed it. He also categorized this as a stretching exercise. And again, it goes against Vince Gironda's teachings. But again, the reason why he advocated this was because it was very popular for people with thick waists, and therefore by doing sit-ups, Roman chair sit-ups, or leg raises, which would apparently stretch the waistline, this would give them a better V taper. Now, the hanging knee up was Frank Zane's favorite abdominal exercise because it targeted the upper and lower abdominals, plus it also developed definition in the upper quads and hip flexor region. He also enjoyed it because it gave traction to the spine, and this is very important for posture, for overall spinal health, and increased flexibility, which is very important, of course, in posing. This is a very dynamic exercise, hence one of Frank Zane's favorite abdominal exercises. Next is the partial sit-up. Now, the partial sit-up is another favorite of Frank. Again, it's a cramping exercise, and by this we mean that it is a high tension exercise, and basically you are at the beginning of the exercise already tense, and the motion, which should only be, according to Vince Gironda as well, a very small motion of approximately 10 inches only, really cramps the abdominals, as you can see clearly in the photo, and brings out the rectus abdominis. Further, if you include twisting into this motion, it would actually then target, instead of the rectus abdominis, the obliques and intercostals. All of these exercises, by the way, are only done with body weight. Now, seated and bent over twists, I truly believe are old school secrets. I never see anyone perform them in the gym nowadays, and I truly do think that these are waist reducing exercises myself, and I'm going to explain why Frank Zane also believed that these were superior exercises at reducing the waistline. They are also a twisting and moving stretch-like motion, and therefore develop dynamic flexibility in the waistline. Now, in the performance of this exercise, you're not supposed to use any weight because you don't want to build the obliques up, which would give you a wider look in the waistline, which is obviously grotesque. Instead, a broomstick should be used as shown in the figure. Arnold actually, and other golden era legends, used to actually also do this exercise using a broomstick, and you can look it up online or in these books. Now, in the performance again of these exercises, you're supposed to slowly increase the cadence or the rhythm of this exercise and perform up to 100 reps per set. And with increasing repetitions, you would increase the speed. Now, if you were to do this exercise, the only way you could do it is the way Frank is doing it right now. And you can see that he is sucking his stomach in. And this is the key to doing seated and bent over twist. It can only be performed with the stomach sucked in, and therefore in doing these exercises, it actually teaches you, just like the vacuum, to keep the waist tight throughout the whole time for minutes at a time, especially when doing high reps. And this is how in this particular exercise, just like the vacuum, the transverse abdominis needs to stay tight throughout the whole performance of the exercise, therefore reducing the waistline. Again, I believe a true golden era secret. Now, Frank also lists several things that one should not do, and these are weighted sit-ups or weighted side bends. Now, Frank Zane did use weights later on in his career for his abdominal exercises, which I'll go through later on, because these are rather advanced exercises that have specific purposes, but he was a strong advocate, just like Vince Gironda, against using weighted sit-ups and weighted side bends because they would overdevelop the obliques or the rectus abdominis and lead to a protruding, distended look. And actually, by doing weighted sit-ups and side bends, believe it or not, you can actually prevent the performance of the vacuum. And of course, this is no good for the development of an aesthetic physique. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I haven't touched on vacuums for a reason, because in the next video I will dedicate a full video to the performance of the vacuum. This is a rather extensive topic, and I think it deserves detailed attention, and so please stay tuned for the next video. As I said, if you enjoyed watching the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm for more content like this, and leave me your comments. What do you think about the Tao, the method, the way of Frank Zane's abdominal development? I think the way he thought about things, about the routine that he would perform, the way he performed them, and the reasoning behind it is very, very important. Hence, I've dedicated a full video to the reasoning why he actually chose the exercises that he chose and did them the way he did. Hope you've enjoyed the video. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now.